Previously, a giant gate suddenly showed up in the middle of the highway, causing a traffic jam. Not long after, Jin Wu arrived to handle it, and without hesitation, he entered the gate alone. But then, the gate unexpectedly transformed into a red gate, leaving the officials stunned by the phenomenon. Once inside, Jin Wu couldn't help but feel like today was not his day. Realizing he was stuck in a red gate, he regretted not letting his mom know he'd be home late. Looking around, he figured it wouldn't take long to clear out the monsters in this dungeon. With confidence, he summoned his shadow soldiers, determined to clear the dungeon swiftly. The battle between the shadow soldiers and the monsters was intense. However, it ended just as quickly as it started when the shadow soldiers mercilessly slaughtered all the monsters with ease. Under the light rain, Jinwoo walked through his kneeling shadow soldiers, who were neatly lined up, forming a path for him. A thought crossed his mind. The system of this world had changed. Dungeons are worlds where survival is all that matters. Hunters are born to hunt. Monsters aren't the only enemy for a hunter. Hunters must be prepared to become prey at any time. Even if there are hundreds of enemies they face, the hunt will never end. Let's move on to the next target. With that resolve, Jinwoo stepped forward to face the dungeon boss. The scene shifts to America, where a hunter is trapped in a high-level dungeon. Fear fills his face as a mysterious figure appears before him. It's Frost Monarch, a creature whose presence alone chills the air and creates an oppressive atmosphere. Moments later, a gate opens, revealing Yogimunt, the Transfiguration Monarch. Frost Monarch glares at Yogimunt, questioning his purpose. Yogimunt explains that he brings news about the small territory in the east, the place where the Shadow Monarch resides. He also mentions that the rulers seem to be trying to free something in the southern Legia, and he needs to head there right away. Yogimunt adds that someone has been confirmed as the greatest fragment of brilliant light, and they're also in that area. Frost Monarch grinned, declaring his intent to deal with that person himself. Suddenly, Frost Monarch senses another powerful presence, coming from the fragment of brilliant light. It's Sung Il-hwan, Jinwoo's father. Il-hwan stares them down, demanding to know more about the small territory in the east, which they're referring to as Korea. Yogimunt decides it's time to leave, not wanting to waste time dealing with him. Meanwhile, Frost Monarch provokes him, daring him to chase them if he's capable. Not willing to let them get away, Il-hwan quickly launches an attack. But Frost Monarch blocks it effortlessly with his ice wall magic, creating a huge explosion that shakes the area. At the Red Gate, Jinwoo finally came face to face with the dungeon boss. The monster carried himself with arrogance, acknowledging Jinwoo's strength for wiping out his entire horde and even daring to face him alone. The dungeon boss ordered his remaining monsters to emerge, but strangely, nothing appeared. Confusion was evident on his face. Jinwoo found the monsters' reaction amusing. He commanded his shadow army to reveal themselves. Moments later, the shadows emerged from the bushes, dragging the corpses of the defeated monsters behind them. The dungeon boss's face twisted with rage, but before he could react, Jinwoo ordered his army to eliminate the remaining monsters. A fierce battle erupted. The shadow army charged forward as the surviving monsters desperately tried to resist. Iron and the High Orc General cut through them with ease, slaughtering the monsters without mercy. Meanwhile, a few monsters attempted to strike Jinwoo directly, but Tank lunged forward, protecting him and tearing the attackers apart with his sharp claws. The dungeon boss began to lose control. But before he could release his fury, Beru and Igris struck with incredible speed, severing his left leg and right arm, causing him to collapse, helpless. Tusk followed up with his gravity magic, forcing the dungeon boss to the ground with crushing pressure, rendering him completely immobile. Jinwoo slowly approached the defeated monster, his gaze cold and unyielding. He warned the dungeon boss to answer his questions or suffer even greater pain. But before the monster could utter a word, he collapsed and died. Jinwoo sighed, realizing the system had interfered once again, preventing him from getting the answers he sought. Determined to uncover the truth himself, Jinwoo retrieved a key from his inventory. Having reached level 100, he was finally able to view its details. The description read, Kartinan Temple Key. This key allows the user to enter the Kartinan Temple. It can be used at the designated gate, and the gate's location will be revealed after a predetermined time. Remaining time, 417 hours. Seeing the key triggered memories of the double dungeon incident from his past. Jinwoo realized the system was leading him back to where everything began. But this time, he was certain things would be different. If this had all been orchestrated from the very start, he vowed to face whatever awaited him at the Kartinan Temple, no matter the cost. In Jinwoo's guild office, Jinho was busy playing the role of a keyboard warrior, responding to the online slander aimed at Jinwoo. After finishing his work, he leaned back, feeling relieved and satisfied for clearing Jinwoo's name. Suddenly, Jinwoo appeared behind him without a sound, startling Jinho, who hadn't noticed his arrival. Jinwoo handed him a bag full of high-grade magic crystals and asked him to sell them to help build the new guild. Jinho felt pleased, knowing this would ease their future worker salary worries. He then reminded Jinwoo that they needed more members to establish the guild and asked if he had decided on a name for it. Jinwoo realized they didn't have a name yet and suggested Solo Guild, considering the guild would focus on solo hunts. Jinho was taken aback and thought the name sounded ridiculous, though he couldn't argue, since Jinwoo always fought alone. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Jinho opened it and was shocked to see Hunter Cha, an S-rank hunter from Korea. Jinwoo asked why she had come. Hunter Cha responded that she wanted to join their guild. Jinwoo invited Hunter Cha inside and asked her to clarify her earlier statement. Calmly, she confirmed that she was interested in joining their guild. Jinwoo was surprised and asked if Hunter Choi had kicked her out of his guild. Hunter Cha clarified that she had not been expelled. With a serious expression, Jinwoo asked what her real reason for wanting to join was, since their guild wasn't capable of paying someone of her rank. Hunter Cha hesitated, searching internally for the right justification. She vividly recalled her initial encounter with Jinwoo, where his unique scent had made a lasting impression on her. Intrigued by him, she had discreetly investigated his background. Her research revealed that Jinwoo was not a malevolent person, and she felt a profound sense of gratitude for his heroic actions in rescuing her during the raid on Jeju Island. Her face flushed red, and in her mind she thought, she really hopes Jinwoo will be with her until the end, but she was too embarrassed to say it. She feared Jinwoo might think she was crazy. Jinwoo, as clueless as ever, noticed her flushed face and grew suspicious she was hiding something. He pressed her again, more seriously this time, asking why she wanted to join. Still shy, Hunter Cha replied, I just want to live comfortably. Is that not allowed? Jinwoo was surprised by her response. Meanwhile, Jinho whispered, wondering what Jinwoo had done to make her act so strangely. Jinwoo, still confused, figured the pressure of being an S-rank hunter at such a young age might be getting to her. To change the subject, Jinwoo then mentioned that their guild had a registration test, which surprised Jinho with the lie. But before he could say anything, Jinwoo cut him off and told him to go buy drinks and snacks. Hunter Cha then asked what kind of test she needed to take. Jinwoo suggested she face off against one of his strongest shadow soldiers. Taking the challenge seriously, Hunter Cha immediately asked when the test would begin. Jinwoo replied that it would happen right away in the Hunter Association's gym. For a moment, Jinwoo considered testing his shadow exchange ability to see if it could work with more than one person. As Cha moved to open the door, Jinwoo stopped her. Stepping closer, he wrapped an arm around her and said there was an easier way to get there. Jinwoo activated his shadow exchange skill, and both of them were enveloped in black shadows and vanished. Meanwhile, Jinho returned with the snacks, only to be stunned as he found both of them gone, replaced by one of Jinwoo's shadow soldiers standing in the room. Moments later, Jinwoo and Hunter Cha had already arrived at the Hunter Association's gym. Hunter Cha was shocked by the sudden move, while Jinwoo realized that this scenario had gone exactly as he expected. He thought about his shadow exchange ability, which allowed him to teleport with others using his shadow soldiers as intermediaries, like a gate that could take him anywhere, as long as there was a shadow soldier to act as a destination. Jinwoo then suggested starting the test, but Hunter Cha pointed out that she didn't have her weapon. Jinwoo assumed she meant a pickaxe, which made Hunter Cha embarrassed. She clarified it wasn't her weapon. She decided to borrow a weapon from the gym storage, using her ID card to access the Hunter Association's locker, choosing a sword and preparing for the spar. Jin Wu summoned Igris, explaining that he was the best swordsman among his soldiers. He set a simple rule: Hunter Cha had to defeat the summon to win, and giving up meant losing. Though Jinwoo considered summoning Beru, he decided against it, fearing it might be too much for Hunter Cha, who might still be traumatized from their previous fight. Hunter Cha took her stance, her sword glowing with magical energy. Seeing her aura, Jinwoo was surprised and asked her to turn around for a moment. Swiftly, Jinwoo took the Demon King longsword from his inventory and handed it to Igris. The sword was now in the Shadow Soldier's hands, ready for battle. Igris started the fight with a powerful slash, his sword crackling with lightning that shattered the gym floor. But Hunter Cha dodged it nimbly and immediately counterattacked, which Igris parried with ease, creating a powerful wave that shook the gym area. Jinwoo watched intently, impressed by her skill. In his office, Chairman Mr. Go felt a powerful surge of energy coming from the gym. Realizing that a sparring match was taking place, he contacted his staff to display the gym's camera footage in his office. On the screen, he saw Jinwoo and Hunter Cha fighting. He wondered when they had arrived and recalled Hunter Cha's strange behavior after the Jeju Island raid. Mr. Go began to suspect that Hunter Cha might have feelings for Jinwoo. He then ordered the cameras to be turned off and to ensure there were no inspections that day. Suddenly, a huge tremor shook his office, indicating the battle in the gym had reached a critical point. Back in the gym, Igris had already been defeated by Hunter Cha. Jinwoo was taken aback by how quickly Igris was beaten. Hunter Cha expressed doubt about the strength of the summoned Shadow Knights and urged Jinwoo to summon the Ant King to fight her. Jinwoo hesitated, warning that Hunter Cha could get hurt if he summoned Beru. But Hunter Cha insisted, showing her determination to face the ant once more. Jinwoo reluctantly summoned Beru. Though Beru had weakened slightly after becoming a Shadow Soldier, he was still a lethal weapon designed to hunt hunters. Beru asked Jinwoo what he should do. Jinwoo ordered him to defeat Hunter Cha without causing harm. Beru acknowledged and unleashed a wave of magical energy that shattered all the lights in the room. From a distance, Hunter Cha felt a sense of unease. She wondered how Jinwoo could command such a monster. Beru prepared to strike with his sharp claws, but Jinwoo immediately warned him not to use them, emphasizing that if Hunter Cha got hurt, Beru would be the one to pay. Beru, puzzled but obedient, held back. From a distance, Hunter Cha stared at Beru with sharp eyes, contemplating the vast difference in power between them. As she thought about it, Beru suddenly appeared behind her. Surprised, she quickly swung her sword, but Beru stopped it effortlessly with one hand. Hunter Cha continued attacking with rapid sword strikes, but Beru easily dodged every blow. Hunter Cha was astonished that Beru could avoid all her attacks without even moving from his spot. In an instant, Beru stood in front of Hunter Cha, roaring directly in her face, sending her flying backward from the force. Seeing this, Jinwoo declared that the fight was over and asked if Hunter Cha was satisfied. Despite being clearly overwhelmed, Hunter Cha refused to give up and insisted on continuing. Jinwoo was puzzled, unable to understand why Hunter Cha was pushing herself so hard, despite having no chance of winning against Beru. He realized that Beru was different from the other Shadow Soldiers. Besides being intelligent, he was a lethal weapon, and he knew Beru was holding back to avoid killing Hunter Cha. Meanwhile, Hunter Cha stared at Beru with intense eyes, triggering Beru's predator instinct. Feeling insulted, Beru lunged at her with his claws. However, Hunter Cha managed to dodge, activated her sword dance, leaping into the air to strike Beru, but Beru quickly stopped her sword and crushed it in his hand. Undeterred, Hunter Cha activated her blade of light, creating a light sword strike, which managed to pierce Beru's body. However, the attack triggered Beru's killing instincts, reminding him of the Queen Ant's command to exterminate the enemy, and this woman was his foe. Jinwoo, realizing this, immediately ordered Beru to stop. But Beru, having lost control, prepared to finish off Hunter Cha with a fatal strike. Hunter Cha closed her eyes, awaiting her end. In a flash, Jinwoo moved and stopped Beru's attack just in time. Beru quickly stepped back, bowing and begging for forgiveness from his master. Jinwoo looked at Hunter Cha and asked why she was pushing herself so hard, even risking her life for an entrance test to a nameless guild. Hunter Cha stayed quiet, not answering. He pressed her again, more seriously this time, saying, "Perhaps, you're interested in me?" Hunter Cha was shocked by the question. After a moment of hesitation, she admitted her feelings, her face turning red with embarrassment. The scene shifts to the United States Bureau of Hunters, where Michael and Mrs. Sellner stand facing David Brennan, the director of the Bureau. Michael apologizes, feeling ashamed about the earlier incident involving Sung Jinwoo. However, David firmly states that he didn't summon them for apologies. He demands an explanation of what actually happened. Michael explains that based on Mrs. Sellner's earlier observations, she identified Sung Jinwoo as one of the kings. David, his gaze sharp, asks Mrs. Sellner for a more detailed explanation. He questions whether this means Jinwoo's power rivals that of a national-level hunter. Mrs. Sellner clarifies that all awakened hunters are connected to the other side, and she can perceive this connection. Awakened individuals who gain immense power from the other side are surrounded by a brilliant light. She refers to them as kings. However, when observing Jinwoo, she saw no such light. Instead, she only saw darkness, and that darkness originated solely from him. David, taken aback by this revelation, asks if this darkness signifies that Jinwoo is evil. Mrs. Sellner cautiously explains that it's not about good or evil. The darkness is the source of his power, an extraordinary strength that doesn't come from the other side but is entirely his own and limitless. Rising from his chair, David approaches Mrs. Sellner, thanking her for the valuable information. He then instructs Michael to follow him to the 24th basement floor. Inside the elevator, David reveals his plan to Michael. If Mrs. Sellner's abilities fail, they will resort to alternative measures to secure Sung Jinwoo. David reminds Michael of the S-rank gate incident that devastated the western United States. During that time, America offered an immense reward to the 5 strongest hunters who survived the catastrophe. That event marked the emergence of a monster with national-level power, the inextinguishable flame, the dragon Kamish. This terrifying creature claimed the lives of dozens of elite hunters before it was defeated. Yet, Kamish left behind something far more valuable than destruction. Upon reaching a heavily guarded special chamber, David opens a thick door. Inside lies the rune stone from Kamish's corpse, perfectly preserved over the past 8 years. David regards it as a priceless legacy that no national-level hunter has witnessed firsthand since then. Nearby, Kamish's meticulously preserved skull rests, a majestic relic of the tragic event that shook the world. In his apartment, Jinwoo stands before a mirror, noticing changes in his appearance. He looks taller and more handsome than before, prompting a moment of reflection. He then approaches his younger sister, Jin-ah, and asks for her opinion on his appearance. Jin-ah, surprised, and responds with confusion, wondering where this newfound confidence comes from. A playful sibling quarrel ensues. Jinwoo ends the argument by mentioning his plan to establish a guild, naming it Solo Guild. However, Jin-ah finds the name odd, pointing out that with his ability to summon numerous shadow soldiers, it's technically not solo. Though mildly annoyed, Jinwoo admits she has a point and asks for another suggestion. Jin-ah proposes Ajin Guild, combining her name with a phrase meaning, "I move forward." Jinwoo agrees, finding the name more meaningful. Meanwhile, in her apartment, Hunter Cha is lost in thought, replaying the events of the gym test at the Hunters Association. Her face flushes each time she recalls the moment, and she tosses and turns on her bed, restless. She worries that Jinwoo might now see her as strange. Yet, she tries to reassure herself that her feelings are justified, given that Jinwoo once saved her life. Suddenly, she's drawn into her subconscious. There, she sees the shadow of Min Byung-yu reaching out to her. The shadow, appearing fearful, pleads with her to deliver an urgent message to Jinwoo. He must be cautious with his power. Cha abruptly awakens, certain that what she experienced was no mere illusion. The scene shifts to the Knights Guild office. Guild Master Park Jong-soo receives a report about a large A-rank gate that has appeared in their territory. However, tackling such a gate requires at least one S-rank hunter on the raid team, which frustrates him as it would mean relinquishing the raid rights to another guild. One of his members suggests seeking Jin Woo's assistance. After some thought, Jong-soo deems the idea reasonable. Collaborating with Jin Wu would not only protect the Knights Guild's reputation as one of the major guilds, but also ensure a safe raid. He decides to approach Jin Wu directly at his new guild's office. At Jin Woo's guild office, he proposes Jin Guild as the name for their newly established guild. Jinho seems to prefer this over Solo Guild, and they settle on the name. They then discuss recruiting founding members. Jinho brings up Hunter Cha's recent visit, but Jin Wu explains that she doesn't meet the criteria he's looking for. Surprised, Jinho questions what kind of individual Jin Wu wants. Jin Wu reveals that he's looking for someone trustworthy who isn't overly concerned with guild activities. Their conversation is interrupted by a thunderous knock at the door. Jin Wu opens it and finds Guild Master Park Jong-soo and two of his members standing there, their faces twisted like they just swallowed a bug. Jin Wu and Jinho exchange bewildered glances, unsure whether to welcome them or call the police. After an awkward pause, they were invited to step inside and begin the discussion. Jong-soo shows them a video of the massive gate that recently appeared in their region. Jin Wu asks if it's an S-rank gate, but Jong-soo explains that the association classified it as A-rank. However, the unstable magical energy it emits and its enormous size, the largest ever seen in Busan, raised doubts about the accuracy of the classification. Since the Knights Guild lacks an S-rank hunter, the association won't permit them to conduct the raid. Thus, Jong-soo proposes a partnership with Jin Wu, offering 20% of the raid's profits as compensation. Jin Wu firmly counters with a 50-50 split, emphasizing that the partnership must be guild to guild, as he has just founded the Jin Guild. Jong-soo attempts to negotiate a 40-60th split, but Jin Wu stands his ground, refusing to collaborate unless his terms are met. After a quick pause, Jong-soo points out that Jin Woo's got a weird vibe, even though he's pretty young. He decides to go for it, but only if Jin Wu can beat the dungeon boss. Jin Woo's cool with it, and they seal the deal with a handshake. Jong-soo mentions that the raid begins the next day and offers Jin Wu a ride to the gate's distant location. Jin Wu declines, citing unfinished business that evening. As Jong-soo and his team depart, Jin Wu discreetly sends a shadow soldier into Jong-soo's shadow. The next day, hunters gather in front of the massive gate on Busan's coast. The Knights Guild members, clad in luxurious gear, prepare for the raid. Jong-soo keeps glancing nervously at his phone's clock. Only 5 minutes remain until the raid starts, but Jin Wu is nowhere to be seen. He regrets not escorting Jin Wu directly the day before. Meanwhile, Jin Wu stands in his apartment, gazing at the overcast sky through the window. He wonders if Jin Ah remembered to bring an umbrella to school. After a brief moment of contemplation, he decides it's time to leave. Activating his shadow exchange skill, his body is enveloped in darkness and slowly vanishes. The scene shifts to Jinna's school, where 3 students walk down a hallway toward an unused room to retrieve a statue. When they step inside, they find rows of dusty statues lined up, but in the corner of the room, a gate has appeared. One of the braver students steps up to the gate and explains that a closed gate like this isn't dangerous yet. It usually takes about a week to fully open, so the monsters inside won't come out anytime soon. Meanwhile, the 2 other students behind him wonder whether the gate just appeared or has been there for some time. Suddenly, the gate fractures, and a monstrous hand bursts out, grabbing the brave student's head and lifting him into the air. He cries for help, but in a flash, his head is crushed, leaving the other 2 students frozen in terror. And in the blink of an eye, the 2 remaining students were lying on the floor covered in blood, showing just how fierce the orcs were. Orcs are natural hunters with lower intelligence than humans, but their sharp instincts make them deadly trackers. One of the orcs scans the area and notices the building's maze-like structure. It looks like a castle filled with humans to hunt. He decides to begin the hunt and orders the others to call for reinforcements. The orcs started hunting, and they slaughtered all the humans they came across. The scene shifts to an A-rank gate in Busan, where Jin Wu has just arrived and notices that the gate looks much larger up close. He observes how well organized the Knights Guild is, with their collection team, mining team, and strike team, consisting of 13 A-rank hunters and 20 B-rank hunters. Suddenly, the hunters on site swarm around Jinwoo, showering him with praise for his success during the Jeju Island raid and eagerly asking if he'll be leading this raid himself. A young woman steps in to stop the commotion. It's Jong Yirim, the main healer of the Knights Guild strike team. Shortly after, Jong-soo arrives and clarifies that he'll be the one leading the raid, while Jinwoo's role is simply to protect them during the operation. Hearing this, a few hunters start grumbling, questioning why the guildmaster always insists on leading and wondering if they're considered so weak that they need Jinwoo's protection. One hunter, particularly cocky, boldly asks Jinwoo if he really thinks the elite Knights Guild members are so feeble that they need his help. Jong-soo quickly steps in, explaining to Jinwoo that his team can be a bit rough around the edges, but this is just how things work in the Knights Guild. Checking his phone, Jong-soo raises his voice and commands the team to begin the raid. The scene shifts to the Hunter Association office, where a female dispatcher answers an emergency call. A panicked schoolgirl is on the line, saying that a horde of monsters has appeared at her school and is hunting people. Trying to calm her down, the dispatcher reassures her that hunters are on their way to save her. She then asks the girl to describe the monsters. Stammering through her words, the girl says they look like humans but with hideous faces and green skin. The description instantly clicks. The monsters are orcs. Panicked, she tells the girl to run because orcs can smell their prey. Unfortunately, there was the sound of something falling on the phone, followed by a long scream that suddenly stopped. This left an eerie silence for the dispatcher who heard it. The school was in chaos. Students were running out, trying to escape, while those trapped inside were relentlessly hunted by the orc monsters. With a threatening voice, they discussed how half of the school had already been taken, and how they would move to the upper floor to slaughter the remaining humans. On the upper floors, a group of students barricades themselves inside a classroom, stacking desks and chairs against the door. But the orcs easily tear through, shattering the barricade. The students freeze, paralyzed with fear, as a towering orc steps into the room, blood-stained sword in hand. One student tries to escape through another door, only to be cut down by an orc waiting outside. The monsters sneer, mocking the humans' terror, ready to unleash more carnage. In the corner, Jinna and Songi found themselves trapped in the same situation. Jinna was paralyzed with fear, constantly calling out to her older brother in her mind. Songi, trying to muster some courage, reminds herself she's a hunter, even if she's only E-rank. But Jinna tried to stop her. Meanwhile, two orc monsters locked their gaze on them. One of them sensed a faint magical energy from Jinna. Without hesitation, the orc swung its axe to attack. Jinna and Songi trembled, resigned to their fate. Suddenly, a shadow-high orc appeared, blocking the orc's attack. It was a shadow warrior hidden in Jinna's shadow. Jinna was shocked but felt a little relief, realizing that the shadow creature belonged to her older brother. The shadow-high orc counterattacked, striking the orc so hard it went through the school's roof. Two more shadow-high orcs emerged, ready to protect their master's little sister. The scene shifts back to the raid in Busan, where the hunters have entered a dungeon that looks like the ruins of an ancient tomb. Soon, they come face to face with a twin-headed ogre. Jong-soo warns everyone to stay alert. Suddenly, the monster charges, swinging its massive axe. Jong-soo quickly activates a protective spell, successfully blocking the attack. One of the hunters dashes up the monster's body, slashing its two eyes. As the creature loses its sight, two other hunters move in, slicing off its arms. From behind, the hunter mages start casting spells, unleashing fire and lightning magic that strikes the monster, causing it to collapse instantly. Jong-soo then tells Jinwoo that this raid won't be easy. If they're already facing twin-headed ogres at the start, the next challenge will be an army of undead. As predicted, hundreds of undead monsters appear before them. The hunters immediately prepare for battle. However, the undead hesitate, unsure of whether to attack. The hunters notice something strange. Normally, they would rush in to attack at the first sight of the enemy, but now they seem to be afraid of something. Meanwhile, Jin Wu thinks this might be boring. He'd hoped for a fight with higher-level monsters in this dungeon. He wonders if he should have brought his mom along for the extra challenge. Suddenly, he feels a strong signal from the shadow soldier he placed on Jinna, signaling a bad feeling about his sister's situation. Jin Wu tells Jiangsu he has to leave immediately. There's an urgent issue he can't ignore. Jiangsu refuses, insisting that Jin Wu's presence is critical for their safety. Torn, Jin Wu decides to leave behind one of his shadow soldiers to handle things here. He summons Beru, and the appearance of the shadow soldier shocks Jiangsu and his team, as they recognize Beru as the Ant King from Jeju Island. Without much explanation, Jin Wu orders Beru to protect the humans while giving him the freedom to handle non-humans as he sees fit. Beru understands and prepares to follow his master's orders. Releasing his aura, Beru sends a chill through the hunters around him, who now regret their earlier disrespect toward Jin Wu. To further strengthen their defenses, Jin Wu summons more ant shadow soldiers, ensuring that 20 of them will be enough to help them complete the raid. However, Jiangsu and Yerim worry about the possibility of the shadow soldiers losing control. Their concerns offend Jin Wu. Firmly, he points out that it's better to accept the help than to have none at all. His anger leaves them with no choice but to agree. Jin Wu feels the need to leave the dungeon immediately, but with his shadow exchange skill still in cooldown, frustration builds inside him. Without wasting another moment, he sprints toward the exit at full speed. Just then, the undead army appears in front of him, blocking his path. Jin Wu pulls out his dagger, ready to face the obstacle. But strangely, the undead kneel before him, as if offering their respect. Jin Wu is taken aback, suspecting they might be bowing to him because of his status as the Shadow Monarch. Seizing the opportunity, he leaps over the undead army and quickly summons Kaisel. He activates his Domain of the Monarch skill, boosting Kaisel's stats by 50%, ordering him to fly as fast as possible to Jinna's location. The scene shifts to the school, where the Shadow Warrior High Orcs have defeated the orc monsters. The students watch in shock and confusion, wondering if the three monsters they saw were protecting them. One of the Shadow Warrior High Orcs stands carefully, guarding Jinna. He then points in a direction, telling Jinna that a new threat is about to appear. Meanwhile, inside the school dungeon, an orc warlord and the chief of the Red Blade tribe, Grokter, sits on his throne. Soon, one of his subordinates reports that the humans who were once in danger are now being protected by 3 Shadow Warrior High Orcs. Grokter is stunned, unable to believe that the powerful orc warriors couldn't defeat the High Orcs. Furious, he orders his subordinates to lead the way, ready to slaughter them himself. The scene shifts back to the dungeon, where the shadow ant soldiers start moving. This fills the hunters with fear, worried that the summoned creatures might lose control and turn on them. Jiangsu ponders whether they should retreat from the dungeon, but remembers the reporters waiting outside. He starts to think of an excuse he can give them. He considers telling them they're retreating because they're afraid of Jin Wu's summoned soldiers. Suddenly, Beru appears in front of him, startling Jiangsu and sending a chill of fear through him. Beru doesn't give Jiangsu a chance to retreat, throwing something at him before continuing down the dungeon. It turns out to be the head of a Death Knight monster. The hunters, witnessing this, are astonished and comment on how easily the ants took down such a high-level monster. Jiangsu smiles, realizing the advantages of having ants this strong. He urges his team to continue the raid. However, without him noticing, his team has already advanced ahead, following the ant shadow soldiers. The scene shifts to the school, where a fierce battle is raging between Grokter and 3 shadow soldiers of the High Orc. The roars of the orcs echoed through the air, as if they were cheering for their favorite wrestler. Grokter, proudly displaying the tattoos across his body, acted as though each mark was a glorious testament to the countless battles he had fought, despite the possibility that some of them could have just been from drunken nights. He stared down the shadow warriors, challenging them to prove their worth. Grokter swings his sword with full force. However, one of the shadow warriors manages to block the strike. Surprised, Grokter intensifies his attack and succeeds in slicing one of the warriors in half. However, the split warrior quickly regenerates in seconds. Grokter is left speechless as if he had just watched a magic trick gone wrong. Suddenly, a sharp pain hits his head, accompanied by a mysterious command urging him to kill a human. Realizing he needs to end the fight quickly, Grokter shifts his gaze to Jinna, who's hiding behind one of the Shadow Warriors. He soon realizes that the source of the Shadow Warrior's magic power is the girl. Grokter orders his subordinates to relentlessly attack the Shadow Warriors. The orcs rush in, surrounding and launching brutal attacks, overwhelming the Shadow Warriors with sheer numbers. Meanwhile, the students, witnessing the chaos, were losing their minds, panicking like they'd just seen a ghost. Grokter sees his chance, grabs Jinna by the head with his massive hand, preparing to finish her off. Suddenly, he feels an ominous aura approaching. His body trembles with fear. In a hurry, he releases his grip and warns his subordinates to brace for impact. A massive explosion demolishes the school wall, and a figure steps forward calmly, telling Jinna that everything will be okay. It's Jin Wu, who had just arrived with Kai Sel, smashing through the wall. Grokter realizes the terrifying presence in front of him and introduces himself as the chieftain of the Red Blade. However, Jin Wu points at him and sternly orders the monster to shut up and wait. He then asks about Jinna's friends, making sure they were all right. But when he saw his sister's face, he realized she had just been grabbed by that ugly monster, and that only made him angrier. Jin Wu summoned Igris to protect Jinna, then called forth some Shadow Knights to escort the students out of the area. As the humans attempted to flee, the monsters prepared to attack. But Jin Wu immediately stares them down and commands them on the monster's tongue to stay put. With the help of the Shadow Soldiers, the students were successfully evacuated. Once everyone was safe, Grokter began to wonder if the immortal warriors he'd seen earlier were under Jin Wu's control and how Jin Wu could speak their language. But Jin Wu remained silent, consumed by rage. Seeing no response from him, Grokter ordered his troops to attack. The monsters charged forward. When one of the orcs swung its axe, Jin Wu swiftly grabbed its arm and slammed the creature to the ground. With cold brutality, he crushes its head under his foot. Two more monsters rushed at him. Jin Wu activates his Dominator touch skill, and with a wave of his hand, he easily controls their bodies. With another swift move, Jin Wu shatters both monsters' bodies instantly. Watching this, the remaining orcs became furious and attacked Jin Wu all at once. But with incredible speed, Jin Wu slaughtered them all in a single motion. Grokter couldn't believe how easily his forces were defeated. In a flash, Jin Wu grabbed Grokter by the head and smashed him hard against the wall. Jin Wu's fury boiled over as he looked at the bodies of the massacred students. He demanded to know why the monsters were so merciless toward humans. Grokter explained that they were under orders to kill humans. With a sharp glare, Jin Wu asked if that order included killing him too. Panicking, the ugly orc stammered out a denial, begging for mercy as tears streamed down his face. Annoyed, Jin Wu sneered and asked if he wasn't considered human. He then coldly declared that the orc's death would be painful. Jin Wu drew his dagger and viciously hacked the ugly orc to pieces until he died. The scene shifts back to the dungeon, where Shadow Ant soldiers are seen feasting on the corpses of the undead army they had defeated. Yerem, noticing the high value of the monster corpses, tries to snatch one from the jaws of a Shadow Ant soldier. However, her actions disrupt and anger the soldier, leading to an unintentional injury. The ant soldier glares at her as if she'd insulted its mother or tried to steal its food. Beru quickly steps in to calm the situation. With a composed demeanor, he uses healing magic to treat Yerem's wounds. Yerem is stunned. She never expected a summoned creature like Beru to wield healing magic, let alone magic far superior to her own abilities. She couldn't help but feel a bit sheepish, realizing her powers were outclassed by a summon. As they ventured deeper into the dungeon, they arrived at the boss room. The room was guarded by high-level undead soldiers, while arch-liches, the dungeon bosses, floated above them. The appearance of the arch-liches shocked the hunters, as they realized these monsters were far more powerful than the Death Knight they had faced before. Jiangsu anxiously warns his team about the arch-liches, telling them how these monsters once wiped out the Gold Dragon Guild in China, causing a dungeon break that only national-level hunter Lu Jigang could stop. He also points out that the undead soldiers here are no joke, as their strength surpasses A-rank hunters. However, the situation gets worse as the undead soldiers come back to life, cutting off their escape. Panicking, Jiangsu shouts at Yerim to block the entrance. Yerim quickly activates her Holy Wall skill, creating a magical barrier to hold off the advancing undead. In this situation, Jiangsu realized that without Jinwoo, completing this raid would be nearly impossible. Under immense pressure, Yerim warns Jiangsu that her skill will only last for 5 more minutes. Amid the chaos, Beru calmly stepped forward, closing in on the dungeon boss and his forces. The archliches stared at him, puzzled, wondering why the monarch's personal troops were attacking them. They were supposed to be allies. Beru pointed at the archliches and said, "We have been chosen by the monarch, and you weren't." Stunned, the archliches demanded to hear it straight from the monarch. Suddenly, Beru closed the gap in a flash, and delivered a powerful blow, taunting, "You talk way too much for someone who's about to die." Beru smashed archliches to the ground. He yanked out archlich's life core and smashed it to bits in no time. With the dungeon boss out of the picture, the undead army around them just collapsed, dead all over again. Beru let out a victorious roar, totally proud of himself. Watching from afar, Jiangsu was seriously impressed. Summoning beasts like that usually drains a summoner dry, but Jinwoo looked like he hadn't even broken a sweat. Jinwoo was on a whole other level, way beyond what any major guild could handle. It was almost unfair, like watching someone speedrun a game while everyone else struggled on the tutorial level. Yuntae, totally wowed by Jinwoo's strength, suggested teaming up with his guild. Jiangsu was skeptical. It sounded too good to be true. Yuntae admitted, though reluctantly, that a hunter as strong as Jinwoo probably didn't need backup. The guy could clear high-level dungeons with the same effort most people put into microwaving leftovers. But then Jiangsu remembered the Hunter Association's rules about having enough people for raids. Even Jinwoo had to play by the book. Yuntae thought this was their big break. Their guild could make up the numbers, and with Jinwoo's power leading the charge, any raid would be a sure win. With renewed enthusiasm, Jiangsu decided to pitch the idea to Jinwoo. This was an opportunity too good to pass up, even if it felt a bit like convincing a cat to swim. The scene shifts to the school, where hunters have arrived at the site and begun evacuating the victims. The air is thick with the heart-wrenching cries of parents grieving for their lost children, while reports confirm that 213 students have died in this dungeon break incident. Meanwhile, an association vehicle zooms through the traffic. During the ride, Mr. Go's worried about the incident, emphasizing the large number of student casualties. He shows Jinwoo a graph on his phone that tracks the rising number of gates appearing across Korea in the past 6 months. Similar phenomena are occurring worldwide, with an increasing number of individuals awakening and becoming hunters as more gates emerge, as if the world is trying to create a new balance. In his mind, Jinwoo finds this odd, realizing that the world is undergoing a massive shift. He then asks Mr. Go what he wants to discuss. Mr. Go hands Jinwoo a document containing official requests from major countries such as Japan, China, Russia, the United States, and even the Middle East. They all wish to establish contact with him and are eager to recruit him to their respective nations. Mr. Go stresses that the final decision is entirely up to Jinwoo. However, he also voices his concern that if a hunter of Jinwoo's caliber were to leave Korea, the country might struggle to adapt to the significant changes happening. A short while later, they arrive at the hospital where Jin-Ah is being treated. As Jinwoo steps out of the car, Mr. Go reassures him that the association is willing to offer anything to convince him to stay in Korea and asks him to name any request he desires. Jinwoo leans forward, his eyes serious, stating his desire to enter high-level dungeons alone. Mr. Go falls silent for a moment, pondering Jinwoo's request. He knows it violates the minimum headcount rule, an association regulation designed to protect hunters from unnecessary risk. However, he realizes that Jinwoo's desire to establish his own guild is deeply connected to this goal. Jinwoo confirms this, explaining that he simply wants to work alone. Though it's a tough request, Mr. Go admits that removing the rule isn't entirely impossible. He tells Jinwoo to leave it to him and promises to take care of it. The scene then shifts to a Jin guild, where Jinho is on the phone with his cousin, Yoo Soo-hyun, a well-known hunter and celebrity in Korea. Jinho invites Soo-hyun to join his guild, assuring her that being part of an unofficial guild would be more beneficial than being tied to her father's guild. Soo-hyun is skeptical of the offer, suspecting that Jinho might have fallen for a scam. However, with a mysterious tone, Jinho insists that she'll be shocked once she finds out who the guildmaster is. He urges her to come and see for herself, piquing Soo-hyun's curiosity. At the guild office, Jinwoo immediately asks Jinho about the woman with him. Jinho explains that she's his cousin, Yoo Soo-hyun, an A-rank hunter. Soo-hyun is stunned when she sees Jinwoo, recognizing him as the famous S-rank hunter in Korea. Jinho smirks and nudges her playfully, noting how easily she gets surprised for a celebrity. As they talk, Jinwoo confirms that Jinho has explained everything. Soo-hyun acknowledges this and agrees to join a Jin guild, even admitting that she prefers this option over joining her father's guild. She then asks if she can take a picture with Jinwoo and post it on Instagram. In no time, the post goes viral, garnering over 200,000 likes with the caption, "First day of a Jin guild." Hunter Cha, who comes across the post, is visibly shocked. Her body trembles slightly, like a phone on 1% battery with no charger in sight. The scene shifts to the National Assembly building of Korea, where a meeting is underway to discuss Jinwoo's request. Congressman Jun Wook-nam firmly rejects the request, arguing that it makes no sense for summoned creatures to be counted as raid members, deeming it unworthy. He insists that the Hunter Association must remain fair and impartial. Approving such a request, he argues, would make them appear biased toward Jinwoo. Nam presses Mr. Go for an explanation of the situation. With a serious expression, Mr. Go acknowledges that this is indeed preferential treatment for Jinwoo. He then poses a question to everyone present. If they had to choose between a raid composed of 20 A-rank hunters or a raid led by Jinwoo to handle a dungeon break, which would they prefer? Mr. Go then takes a jab at Congressman Nam, pointing out that his new apartment is near the Hunters Guild. He emphasizes that like most wealthy individuals, Nam has chosen to live in a safe area, close to someone strong enough to protect them. This reflects a global phenomenon, where guilds worldwide are racing to recruit Jinwoo. He reminds everyone that if an S-rank gate suddenly appeared, who could protect their country? The next day, a Jin guild successfully secures preferential treatment from the Korean Hunter Association and embarks on their first raid. Association staff have secured the surrounding area to ensure a smooth operation. However, the atmosphere shifts suddenly as reporters swarm in, bombarding Jinwoo with a barrage of questions. They ask about his thoughts on his guild's debut raid and his relationship with the famous celebrity Yoo Soo-hyun. Suddenly, Jinchul appears, trying to control the situation. Jinwoo questions whether the association is failing to protect his personal information. Jinchul explains that while his personal data has been safeguarded, information about the gate's location is difficult to keep secret. He also advises Jinwoo to avoid posting anything on Instagram in the future. Jinwoo offers a sheepish smile, realizing that his photo with Soo-hyun had put a Jin guild in the media spotlight. Meanwhile, Jinho is surprised by how big the gate is. He feels they might need to hire a mining team. He's worried they can't handle it alone. However, Jinwoo summons his shadow soldiers and explains that they will handle the work. Curious, Jinchul takes out a manometer to measure the magic power of one of Jinwoo's shadow soldiers. The result shocks him. One shadow soldier possesses strength equivalent to a B-rank hunter, or even higher. With power like this, he muses, only a fool would dare challenge Jinwoo. Equipping his combat gear, Jinchul explains that the association president has ordered him to monitor the raid's safety, so he will join as an observer. Jinwoo asks if he's sure, and Jinchul confidently assures him that it's no big deal. However, his expression changes as he witnesses the brutality of Jinwoo's shadow soldiers in action. The Shadow Knights tear through A-rank monsters with ruthless efficiency. Tank slashes through a monster's head in a single swipe, while Iron commands the ant soldiers to slaughter the incoming monster hordes. On the other side, Baru effortlessly decapitates monsters with his razor-sharp claws. Jinchul watches in awe as he watches their regenerative abilities render the monsters helpless. His gaze shifts to Igris, who wields the Demon King's sword. As Igris swings his blade, crackling arcs of magical lightning tear through the air with immense power. His masterful swordplay weaves intricate webs of lightning, which explode in a dazzling spectacle, obliterating the monsters without any resistance. Jinchul is dumbfounded by the display, realizing that these summoned creatures surpass A-rank hunters and might even rival S-rank hunters. He acknowledges that facing them one-on-one would be a losing battle. Meanwhile, the ant soldiers continue devouring the heads of their prey with unsettling dedication. Annoyed, Jinwoo kicks one of them onto the dungeon ceiling and sternly reminds them that monster corpses are worth money, not a free meal. He then turns to the other shadow soldiers, making it clear that standing around wasn't an option. Those magic crystals weren't going to mine themselves. Jinchul is left speechless. This is something he's never seen before. Jinwoo can handle everything effortlessly on his own. At this moment, he finally realizes why the association president wanted him to observe this raid. After all the guardian monsters were annihilated, only the dungeon boss remained, a colossal humanoid serpent wielding 2 tridents as its weapons. Jinwoo decided to recall some of his shadow soldiers back into the darkness. Jinchul frowned, clearly puzzled by the move. He asked why Jinwoo reduced the number of summons when they were strong enough to handle the boss. Jinwoo casually twirled his daggers and said if he leaned too much on his summons, his skills would get rusty. The dungeon boss attacked with full force, but Jinwoo swiftly dodged. He dashed along the monster's massive body with incredible speed and slashed its head, splitting it in half. With a single decisive strike, the A-rank dungeon boss was defeated. A system notification popped up. You have killed the dungeon boss. He also received a notification that his level had increased to 101, and all of his job-specific skills had leveled up, including Shadow Extraction, Save Shadow, Domain of the Monarch, and Shadow Exchange. A satisfied grin spread across Jinwoo's face. With the cooldown of Shadow Exchange reduced by an hour, he felt more relieved knowing he could better protect his mother and sister in the future. Standing near the monster's corpse, Jinchul couldn't hide his amazement. He realized that Jinwoo could pierce through the monster's incredibly tough scales using just his 2 daggers. Jinwoo stepped closer to the dungeon boss's corpse and uttered a single word, "Arise." Dark shadows slowly emerged from the monster's body, forming a new shadow soldier ranked Elite Knight. Jinwoo noted that the summon was smaller than its original form, but its magical power was almost on par with Tusk. He then approached the shadow soldier, touched its head, and named it Jima. On the other hand, Jinho watched in awe, astonished by Jinwoo's ability to turn such a powerful monster into his summon. However, his attention quickly shifted when he noticed the dungeon's ceiling starting to crumble, signaling that the dungeon was about to collapse. Jinho warned Jinwoo to get out immediately. Jinwoo understood the situation but was puzzled about how to transport the massive dungeon boss's corpse. Outside the dungeon, waiting reporters were left speechless as they saw the towering shadow soldier emerge from the gate, carrying the monster's corpse on its shoulders. Camera flashes filled the air, capturing every moment with excitement. Tusk, feeling like a celebrity, flashed an awkward but proud grin, soaking up the attention. Jinwoo and Jinho realized that their debut raid had attracted massive public attention. Meanwhile, Jinchul's face remained visibly shaken as he exited the dungeon, as if the terror he had witnessed still haunted his thoughts. Even at the Hunter Association office, Jinchul still looked like he'd seen a ghost as he reported to Mr. Go. With cold sweat trickling down his face, Jinchul stated that what he had just experienced wasn't a typical raid, it was a massacre. Seeing Jinchul's condition, Mr. Go advised him to take a rest. In his mind, Mr. Go couldn't believe that Jinwoo managed everything on his own, defeating monsters, mining magic crystals, and even transporting the monster's corpse. He felt that calling Jinwoo a one-man raid team was an understatement. The most fitting title would be One-Man Guild, where Jinwoo himself was the guild. Mr. Go was convinced that his initial impression of Jinwoo had been right all along. He was certain the global rankings of top hunters were about to change. The scene shifts to Shinjuku District, Tokyo, Japan. A massive gate suddenly appeared in the sky out of nowhere. The people in the area were stunned, watching as the ominous gate exuded an overwhelming sense of menace that couldn't be ignored. Everyone could only stand still, staring at the terrifying phenomenon in stunned silence.